2. That's how many DSA-endorsed members sit in Congress right now. Harry Enten just put 8 on CNN's screen. 8 who won 2026 Democrat primaries, and 7 of them are favored to win in November. CNN's own numbers man said it out loud, and Anna Paulina Luna just named the people who are funding them. Abolish the prisons. Abolish the Senate, abolish the presidency, the Supreme Court, NATO, and the Department of Defense. That's not my paraphrase, folks. That is the DSA platform, read on CNN by Matt Bennett of Third Way, a Democrat, that's right. And 7 of the 8 candidates carrying that platform are favorites to walk into the next Congress. And now watch what happens when Enten pulls up the map. 3 in New York, 2 in Michigan, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and a Senate primary in Florida. Then hear Luna name the Megadonor that the DOJ is investigating. See, this next bulletin never scrolls across the mainstream chyron. Open enrollment paperwork is moving again, and millions of seniors are overpaying for Medicare tonight. And that is not an accident, Patriots. That's the business model. Big insurance runs on confusion. The mailers, the robocalls, the fine print, it's all engineered so you never switch. And here's the part they cut for time. There is a newsroom for your Medicare, and it's called Chapter. Independent Medicare advisors, the only advisors comparing every plan nationwide. Not the handful some call center get paid to push. Chapter reviews your doctors and prescriptions and then reports back the truth about your file. If you're already on the best plan, they will confirm it and say so plainly. If you're not, they'll help you switch plans. One call, under 20 minutes, and it costs you nothing. 910-728-4109. That's the number on your screen right there. 910-728-4109. And then get back here because we are counting the socialists in Congress right now. Listen to this. Outspent 10-1 in Florida. And the DSA candidate won the Senate primary anyway. Matt Bennett said that Washington's backing was kind of the kiss of death. So read that again. Democrat establishment money is now a liability inside the Democrat Party. And now I'm going to bring up the receipts. RNC research. Far-left extremists who want to abolish police, prisons, and borders are taking over the Democrat Party. And here we have CNN actually talking about it. This is wild.
Look, democratic socialism is no longer just a polling phenomenon. It is in the real world. We are seeing actual candidates winning primaries. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this. DSA or DSA-endorsed congressional candidates currently in Congress, there is just 1, 2. Now we're talking about 4 times as many, 8 candidates who have won 2026 primaries, and 7 of those are favorites to win in the fall, win in the general election. So the Democratic Socialists of America's ranks in Congress, they are definitely growing, getting larger.
That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. He maps where the wins are happening. 3 New York, 2 Michigan, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and Florida.
All right, so where are these wins happening? Is there a specific area, or what are you seeing with the numbers?
Yeah, okay, you might just say, oh, this is just a phenomenon in the Northeast. This is part of the Acela corridor. This is just an urban phenomenon. No, not really. I mean, take a look here. Where DSA candidates won primaries for Congress, they're all Democrats. Yeah, you got 3 in New York, but you got 2 in Michigan. You got 1 in Colorado. You got 1 in Florida last night running for the Senate, and you got 1 in Pennsylvania. So this is not just a Northeast phenomenon in terms of these DSA candidates who are winning primaries. Yes, they are primarily in urban areas, but they are happening across the map, from the Northeast to the Midwest to the Mountain West, and then last night down in the South in Florida. So this is happening across the political map. We are seeing these DSA candidates winning in Democratic primaries. As I said, they are becoming a larger part of the Democratic primary.
That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Anna Paulina Luna takes it further, says the DSA money traces back to the Communist Party and a donor already under investigation.
Sean, this is a lot more nefarious than I think a lot of people realize. DSA is absolutely funded and tied to the Communist Chinese Party. We know, for instance, in their megadonors like Neville Roy Singham, who are currently under investigation by the Department of Justice, that they're not only pushing Marxism, but they're also joining with other groups like the Party of Socialism and Liberation, working in conjunction to target these moderate Democrats and flip these seats. But I want to remind people, Sean, that ultimately the DSA platform is truly racist. So first and foremost, for example, in New York, you just saw them elect a candidate that made both anti-white and anti-Semitic comments. And she's likely to be the nominee that's going to be serving actually this 120th Congress for the Democrats up there. And so ultimately, it's our job, especially as vocal people with platforms, as members of Congress, to call it out for what it is. And ultimately, Sean, if we remind voters specifically of the big wins that we've delivered, that the president has delivered, remember, no taxes on tips, no tax on overtime, banning insider trading, which is something that the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries specifically, tried to stop. And then now, more recently, you see DSA candidates that are potentially running in 2028 talking about the issue of student loan debt. Meanwhile, literally, the Democrat Party again told their own members to stay off a discharge petition that would cap student loan interest at 2%. These are winning issues for the Republican Party. So we will be educating our voters and ensuring that they show up in the midterms. And I am cautiously optimistic that we will keep the crazy away.
So really, if you analyze it, I mean, based on all the...
Oh my goodness, the crazy. Keep the crazy away. That's really the antidote here. Democrat Congressman James Walkinshaw was asked what he thinks of the Socialists. His answer: anyone who will fight MAGA is welcome in the coalition. So even if they're a communist, apparently.
Democratic Socialists have had some success in the primaries this year. What parts of their messaging do you like? In what specific parts of their messaging do you not like?
Well, I think the results last night in Florida were mixed if you're looking at it on that continuum. Democrats also nominated Dave Jolly for governor, a former Republican moderate. My colleagues, Jared Moskowitz and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, won primaries against candidates who align themselves further left. Look, I think right now Democratic primary voters are looking for candidates who will, A, fight and stand up to Trump, and B, fight for them and develop a real vision for the future. And I think anyone who wants to be part of our coalition, to stand up to MAGA, to stand up to Trump, to fight to bring down the cost of living, is welcome. And when we're in the majority in the House in January, we're going to have a handful of Democratic Socialists, perhaps.
Oh my God. No. Nope. Let's go to Indiana's Bo Bay. Got the same question, but wouldn't touch it. Indiana Democrat dodges when asked about the far-left Democrats. Of course, he's terrified of them. That's why he's dodging.
I guess I'm kind of curious for you as a candidate in Indiana, what you think matters to voters there. Are you going to have to answer questions as to what you think about Democratic Socialists, whether that defines the party these days? Does that challenge or make your challenge harder in an otherwise red state? Or how do you answer that question?
Thank you so much for having me on, Joe and Peter. I've been singularly focused in this race on speaking about two issues. One, the rampant corruption that has taken hold of my state government.
There's the dodge. I just want to talk about what's going on in my state. Third ways Matt Bennett does the math on Florida. Has a DSA candidate won that primary. He says the House seat would have been impossible.
Primary.
Yeah, my emotions all season have been very mixed, let's just say, and that's how we felt again last night. Jared Moskowitz won easily in his race against a DSA member, which puts a House race very much on the board for Democrats. He could win that. It's going to be tough. But had the DSA member won that primary, it would have been impossible. And in the Senate race, it was always going to be difficult to win that.
So he explains why the Socialists won anyway. Outspent 10-1. Democrat voters, in his words, super pissed at the establishment. Here's more.
In a state like Florida, where the Democratic Socialists can be outspent like at least 10-1 in that candidate, but still win.
Look, voters are very angry, and they have a right to be angry. Trump is doing horrible things to this country, and Democrats are apoplectic about that, and all Democrats are from every corner of the party. what they're doing is kind of flipping over the tables. They're super pissed, and they're taking on anyone that they view as the establishment, and it's much harder for people like that to win. So Vindman, even though he's not an elected official, had the backing of Washington, and that was kind of the kiss of death.
Wow. So what does the establishment do about it? Bennett says they close ranks and back every single nominee.
So if you are, as part of this third way, closer to the Democratic establishment, as it were, how do you prove to voters that you too are pissed?
Yeah, look, it's incumbent on us to, first of all, close ranks. We have now basically done with the primary season. There's a couple left, but it's mostly over. We now have to elect Democrats everywhere. Every single Democrat that has won their nomination, we need to be behind, and we are. But we also have to be clear that we think what has happened in this country, not just under Trump, which has been a catastrophe, but under the last 20 years, just isn't enough. We have to do more to make sure that if you bust your butt in this country, you...
So he puts a price tag on it, $50 million, and names the target, the DSA itself.
So to be clear, the $50 million you announced to run against the progressive left, not for the midterms.
No.
So what are you going to use it for?
Definitely not. And actually, we're not going to use it against any candidates. This is an effort to wake up the Democratic establishment, not about the progressive left. We're not talking about, people that are in the progressive caucus. We're talking about the DSA itself. And the DSA itself is a really destructive force. They have a platform that calls for the abolition of prisons, the Senate, the presidency, the Supreme Court, NATO, and the Department of Defense, among many other things. No sane Democrat wants to do that, and we need to make sure that voters who are angry understand the difference between
a Democrat and a communist. The lines are blurring. And then he asked the question that he can't answer. What is a center-left actually for, then?
Progressive Democrats and the DSA.
Axios, which I think is the one who first wrote up your $15 million effort, said there is a challenge, though, that you have, and you're part of the party, which is explaining to Democratic voters what exactly you're for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. And it's not just third way. It's everybody in the center left. We have got to be clear that we understand the scale of the problem, that we're not for, little technical fixes. People are suffering. 100 million people have medical debt. That is an outrage. I mean, you could go down the list on all these issues. People cannot afford to live in this country in ways that they have come to expect that they should, and we need answers that are scaled to that problem. I think we'll have them as we enter the primary season next year.
So, quote, the DSA is absolutely funded and tied to the Communist Chinese Party. That is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna naming Megadonor Neville Roy Singham, currently under DOJ investigation, working with the Party of Socialism and Liberation to flip moderate Democrat seats. Congressman James Walkinshaw's answer to all of it: anybody who hates President Trump is welcome in the coalition. That's the whole philosophy now, my friends. So finish the Singham investigation, shut off the transfers. That's the demand. And I want you sending it to the Justice Department in writing, and then go find your Democrat congressman in a swing district and ask him the question that Bo Bay flat out refused to answer in Indiana. Do you stand with the people who want the Department of Defense abolished, yes or no? And watch him dodge. Then screenshot it and put it in the comments, because your neighbors need to see what CNN just admitted, because this isn't a Democrat problem anymore. 8 seats, 7 favorites, 1 firewall, and it's a turnout in November. Now share this with somebody who still thinks it's just Brooklyn. And if you want the next piece of this before the platforms decide you shouldn't have it, well, here's how. Luna names Singham on live television, and that's exactly the kind of thread that we chase down before it gets scrubbed. So text White House to 844-840-4963 right now. Next News Network sits in the White House press pool, and what our people pull out of that building lands in your phone every night, no matter what YouTube does to this video. Now, plenty of you are already past reading a briefing. You want a job. So text Signal to that same number, enlist in the Next News Signal Corps, and we'll tell you exactly where to push this story next. So get in tonight, Patriots.